Stan Gibilisco here. I just was looking at one of my videos and saw some suggested videos down below. There are always a bunch of those, and one of them was a very short, only a little over 2 minutes video explaining, supposedly, what the neutral wire in your household electrical system does. Is it grounded or not? And if not, what is its purpose? And I proceeded to watch that video. You can see a lot of videos about that. And there were some comments, and some of them were rather profane, and telling him that by profane, I mean indecent, but most of them were civil. But there was appears to be a lot of controversy about what exactly does that thing do. Now, I'm in the United States, and we have a three-phase system. 120 volts or thereabouts is what you get when you plug something into a standard wall outlet, except for the laundry machine and certain other appliances, the oven, the range. Those get 240 volts, RMS AC. And I'm not an electrician, I'm going to tell you that straight away, so I don't know all of the codes and all of the theory behind exactly how this works. But I do know one thing. It's easy enough to find out if your neutral prong, that third prong in your electrical system, assuming you have a three-wire electrical system, is grounded or not. It's easy enough to find out. Measure the voltage between that prong with an ordinary AC voltmeter. Measure the voltage between that and a known ground. And be sure it's a known ground. Now, I know that cold water pipes in my house near the outside where they run to the main water line are grounded. I've determined that because it's connected to the main electrical ground rod or ground system. So if there's a voltage between that neutral prong on one of the plugs, on any plug, any outlet in your house, and that known ground, then obviously the so-called neutral is not grounded. If there is no voltage, it could still be not grounded. But what you've got to do then, only if you see no voltage, is to measure the resistance with a DC ohmmeter between that prong and ground. And if you get zero or near zero, an ohm or two, you can safely assume that is a ground, an actual electrical ground. I remember when I lived in Wisconsin once, I made the mistake of assuming that the neutral was a ground. And it turned out that when I touched one of my appliances, I got a rude shock, and I found that there was 57 volts RMS AC between that neutral and ground. So I short-circuited that neutral to a known ground, expecting, well, I wonder if a fuse will blow or something. No, a fuse did not blow. There was a little spark, but then I knew that neutral wire was in fact grounded because I had connected it to a known ground. Interestingly enough, that was back in the days when you had dial-up internet, and it doubled my internet speed on my computer when I did that. To this day, I can't figure out why. But it actually, it was something like 57 kilobits per second was the speed, the highest speed you could get, and I was only getting about half of that, about 28.8. It used to be, I think I got between 27 and 30 kilobits per second. That was blazing fast back then. And but it was supposed to be a 57 kilobit per second modem, or 56, something like that. And when I shorted that plug to ground, that prong to ground, where the computer was plugged in, I got double the speed. Again, I'll never figure out why, but I felt a lot safer. So is that third prong in your AC plug grounded or not? Well, if you want to bet your life on it, if you want to bet the safety of any of your appliances on it and the functioning of any of your appliances on it, it's best to assume that it's not until you can prove by experiment that it is, or until you can force it to ground by short-circuiting it to a known ground. And if you blow a fuse when you do that, or you trip a breaker, that house had fuses, by the way. It was an old house, this old house. And even in the house that I have now, some of the neutral prongs in my plugs are not connected to anything at all. Maybe a short length of wire in the wall, but otherwise somebody, obviously not a qualified electrician, had wired up some of the electrical system in this house and had not done a professional job of it. So the best thing I can tell you about that is I do not know if that thing is grounded or not. I cannot claim to know. There's only one way to know, and that is to determine by experiment that in fact it is grounded. Otherwise, you'd best assume that it's what they call a floating neutral. Now, again, I'm not an electrician. I do not know all the codes. If you really want an answer to your questions about your electrical system in your house, call a certified electrician, have her or him come out to your house and test everything and determine for you, a certified electrician determine for you what's going on. And you might even want to get a second opinion, sort of like a medical diagnosis, because after all, 57 volts, which I measured on there, through your chest cavity, is sufficient, in some cases, to kill a person. Don't die just because you think something is true and haven't proven it so. Prove it to yourself and your loved ones. And your computer. Stan Jabalisco signing off. Until next time, so long.